Shalom, Chevre. Welcome to Tanya Outside In. We are in my for sure. I think you can easily say that until now, Perek Kufkin was the most difficult, complex Perek in Tanya. Okay, what we're attempting to do, we might go back to the beginning actually, but what we're attempting to do is really explain the difference. Well, the Parent 23 is split into two sections, Torah, mitzvahs and Torah. So you could say, if you take 23 out of context, you could say, well, really, it's trying to explain to you the difference between doing mitzvahs and limud Torah. And that's not wrong. But when you take it in context, it's basically just trying to tell you what happens when you align yourself with God. When you are aligned with the agenda of the Ribono Shel Olam. And remember, we can always translate the word Hashem as reality. I think that's a really accurate translation of the word Hashem. So when you're aligned with reality, yeah, which see, this is the thing, people might refer to it as having a relationship with Hashem. But to say having a relationship with reality is a bit weird, yeah? Whereas saying being aligned with reality makes a lot of sense, but it also makes sense to say being aligned with Hashem. So the idea of relationship, like when we talk about having a relationship with Hashem, I think it needs like we need to discuss that. We need to talk that out because I have a relationship with my postman as well. Well, I don't because there isn't one, but if there was a postman, I might have some kind of relationship with him. So that needs to be discussed. But really, the idea, the way I understand it, is aligned with Hashem. So Perek Kaf Gimel is discussing the two levels of alignment with God. Are you mamash merged with Him, mamash, like in Limud Torah, or are you nullified to Him, like in mitzvahs? Yeah. So in context, we're just talking about two different styles of being aligned with reality. If you take it out of context, we're really distinguishing between the mechanics of what happens when you learn Torah when you do mitzvahs. Again, I know that Yitzi for sure was a little, what was the word? Bamboozled by what we learned last week. But that's really healthy because probably the people who aren't bamboozled by it didn't it went over their head. You should this is really complicated, really don't say it's complicated, but it's really subtle. It's really
Well,
it's really sophisticated. And we don't use in Torah, we don't generally use our mind like this. The kind of energy that is necessary to learn Gemara it's a completely different avoider of the mind than, don't get me wrong, learning Gemara is a big workout for the mind, yeah? But this is also a big workout for the mind. But they're two completely different things. Lahavdil, Elif Alpha, Elafim Havdalas, it's like the Hevdil between running on a running machine and doing weights. They're both, intense exercise, and you could call them exercise, and that's correct. But we know that they're very, very different. So that the avoider of learning these ideas is very different to the avoider of learning Gemara, especially Talmud Bavli. Um,
sure.
yeah,
Um, just just to get the a little bit of a running start, it sounds like we took a default after Perek Tes Zion that we were talking about Avodas Hashem and actual eitzas and understanding the mechanics of the Beinani and how it works, and suddenly we went into a long tangent
after,
on Avodas Hashem.
after that, it starts from Yud Ches, yeah, from Yud
Not
Ches.
from Yud Zion?
No, from Yud Ches
Right, right.
to Kaf Hey is a complete shlav. That's called the short way. So you could say it like this: from Perek Aleph until 17 is, or let's say like this: from Perek Aleph until Perek 9, from 1 until 9 is getting all the pieces in place. Yeah, getting the vocabulary straight, getting the definitions down, etc. Yeah. Then Perek 10 is the Perek of the Tzaddikim. 11 is explaining, excuse me, explaining the Rishayim. Then 12, 13, 14, 15 is describing the Matzvah the Benoni. 16, 17 is called the long path. That's the long term project of the Benoni, which means the fixing of your inner world. Yeah. Getting your midas aligned with the Rabboni Shalom, becoming godly. Yeah, that's 16, 17. Then 18 to 25, if you want to really like boil it down, is called the short road, which is it's to not do it justice. This doesn't do it justice, but I think it's accurate to say this. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. That it's basically a very good, it really doesn't do it justice. But taken simply, Perek 18 to 25 is a very powerful eitzah on how to not do Averas, how to behave correctly. By saying you would give your life up for God, that's 18, 19. And then by saying all there is God, that's 20, 21, 22. And then explaining what happens when you're in line with God, that's 23. What happens when you're unaligned with God, that's 24. And 25 is like in the middle. And that's all basically, so it basically turns around to you at the end and says, look, if you're prepared to die for God, then you should be prepared to live for God. That's why I said that in LA is an important idea. Is b'chol mo'idecha, yeah. In Shema we say b'chol lavavecha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol mo'idecha. B'chol mo'idecha is what the whole Tanya is predicated on. That mo'oid, the word mo'oid. That's why it's ki koevelecha adav mo'oid, yeah. B'ficha la soisoi, yeah. And then moide ani is also lashon mo'oid. And anyway, so mo'oid, by the way, b'chol mo'idecha, you know what the gematria of that is? I can't remember if it's b'chol mo'idecha. Yeah, I think it's b'chol mo'idecha is gematria oineg. But b'chol mo'idecha is basically saying you have the capacity to give your life up for God, mamash. That's the Mesiras Nefesh of the Jew, meaning that is best articulated through the example of the secular Jew giving his life up when it comes push to shove. Secular Jew doesn't even believe in God necessarily. And the goy puts a gun to his head and says either you bow to this idol or you deny the oneness of Hashem or I'll kill you. And he's marveling at himself, thinking this doesn't make any sense, but he won't bow. So that's the Chol Mo'idecha. Where's the avoider in that? You realize there's no avoider in that. That's just a description of the Metzias of a Yid. What'd you do? Okay, great. That's what's going to happen. I'll give up my life for God when push comes to shove. Yeah. Nothing left to do. So now b'chol nafshecha, really, there's much more left to do. B'chol nafshecha is the avoider of the Jew in this world is becoming so thoroughly identified with Torah and mitzvahs and Am Yisrael. I'm a little bit hesitant to say Hashem because that's I'm really like as I'm getting older, I don't, and hopefully getting wiser, I hope, is that idea of identifying with Hashem is like, I don't know what that means. But I know it means to identify with Am Yisrael, Torah and mitzvahs, that makes a lot of sense to me. So identify with Hashem, you can put a question mark over that, I don't know. But but then your goof, your nefesh Bahamis becoming really Jewish. That's an avoider to the point where a goy puts a gun to your head and you say, you go through the cheshbon and say, you know what? It makes sense that I should give up my life. What would my life be without Am Yisrael, Torah, and mitzvahs? And you give up your life. That is more of an avoider. That's more of an avoider than b'chol mo'idecha, which is just a description of what you would do if you were secular, or what's happening on the deepest level. Gabriel, you with me? So b'chol nafshecha is really, that's why it's called nefesh. That is the identification of that is the avoider of the Jew. That means you've made Jewish your nefesh Bahamis. Your nefesh Bahamis is now mamash a Jew. And he's prepared to give up his life for God with a cheshbon. Whenever a Jew gives up his life for God, yeah, there's the b'chol mo'idecha, there's the nefesh elokis giving itself up. But the avoider of being Jewish is being Megaya, the nefesh Bahamis. That
Isn't
would
that
be
B'chol Levavecha?
what?
Isn't that the meaning of B'chol Levavecha?
Well, that's b'chol nafshech. B'chol nafshech would be the revelation of that on the ultimate level. The guy puts a gun, like Rabbi Akiva says, I'm so happy that I'm getting the schus to give up my life for God. That was him having been Mekadesh his nefesh Bahamis. But b'chol levavecha is the day in, day out avoider of being Jewish. That's why it's b'chol levavecha with two bases.
Shtei Yetzerecha.
Exactly.
I
That's
mean, that's when you still have two Yetzeharas.
me.
B'chol Nafshecha is when you have transformed it.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. B'chol levavecha is the avoider of the Jew. What's the avoider of the Jew? Is to make your nefesh Bahamis a yid. Make him mamash a human Jew, meaning he's mamash identified with Yiddishkeit. He's just identified with Yiddishkeit, like a goy is identified lahavdil with his thing. But that, don't forget, that's predicated on b'chol mo'idecha, meaning that the panemius of the whole thing is b'chol mo'idecha. The panemius of the whole thing is mamash lishma. But the avoider is getting the nefesh Bahamis to become so Yiddish that he will actually make the cheshbon that he wants to give up his life. That's the Madrega of Rebbe Akiva. That's unbelievable. But the actual avoider of the Jew is b'chol levavecha. That's the day in, day out avoider of making the nefesh Bahamis Jewish.
And what's higher than giving up your life?
Living your life.
That's Modecha?
No, living your life is b'chol levavecha.
So
B'chol mo'idecha is basically a description of the panemius of the Jew. Meaning, what's the difference between a goy can die b'chol nafshecha? Yeah, lahavdil elef alve alafim havdalas yemach shemam v'zichronam. Yeah, the chevra that came into Eretz Yisrael on October 7th, they were all bechinas nafshecha for whatever their thing was. That was nafshecha. They were mamash identified with their getchka, albeit a getchka in their mind. Yeah. Oh, and it's got no. It's not. It's not. I think it's kind of. It's not ironic. It makes a lot of sense that Islam would be the most kosher form of avoider al pi halacha on a chetzonius level. But al pi panemius, the way I understand it, it's for sure the most treif thing that exists in the whole world. It's mamash treif, much more treif than everything else, infinitely more treif. It makes a lot of sense to me that it would be on the pshat, it would be the most kosher thing, and in truth, it's the most treif thing. So anyway, but that was all the bechina b'chol nafshecha, and that's the same as the guys. It's the same as Greta Thunberg, whatever her name is, yeah, on her rubber dinghy to save the people in Gaza. Yeah, that was, I mean, she could have gotten killed. Those thoughts went through. I don't know if she was doing it for the publicity. Even if she was doing it for the publicity, that would still be b'chol nafshecha. That is giving up your life. That is giving up your life for the Azans, yeah. And giving up your life for popularity is the same thing. That's all b'chol nafshecha, meaning giving up your life for your cause. Now fill in your cause. Is your cause feeding the poor people in Africa, liberation to the Indians, or more likes on your YouTube page? There's madrigas on a Chetzonius level, but it's all the same thing. So if Greta Thunberg was prepared to give up her life for her Facebook page, that's the same mechanics internally as her being prepared to give up her life to say, to give food to the Azans. It's her cause. Okay, on a Chetzonius level, there's obviously madrigas to causes, yeah. But that's b'chol nafshecha. So that's a human. Is everyone with me? That's kulu human. So b'chol mo'idecha is just the description of the Jew. The difference between a Jew and a non-Jew is b'chol mo'idecha, meaning that the Jew can go beyond his cause, her cause. The
which
avoider
is
of the
only expressed when Hashem tells you to give up your cause.
and more than that, it's only it's yeah, exactly. It's only expressed.
Or when you give up your life for Hashem when you don't believe in Him.
That's giving up you. That's going beyond your cause because your cause is life in that case.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly the point. So it's not. There's nothing to do about that. That's just
But
that's
now it's out of order again. The
no,
whole word is that Meodecha seems less than Nafshecha. Oh, so it comes out Meodecha is actually more than Nafshecha because it's not just your life, it's your cause, which is you're even willing to give your life up for. You have to give up that. But now that you explained it that that's easy, so now it comes out the whole Levavacha is actually the hardest thing.
I didn't say easy. I just said there's nothing to do there. There's no avoider there. We're learning it in a different way now. The first thing is really the ikka of the avoider is b'chol levavacha. Yeah. Then that, if we do b'chol levavacha correctly, the avoid of working for the Boyne and then we'll get to the Madrega of Rabbi Akiva, which is b'chol nafshecha, where your humanity is so thoroughly identified with Yisrael and Torah, yeah, that you'll give up your life al pi cheshbon. And that's all predicated on b'chol mo'idecha, which is just the metzias of the Jew. The reality of the Jew is you're Jewish and you are chelek elokei mima'al. You're connected to God in a way that's understandable, and you can't give up that. You can read it both ways, but one is the most ultimate description of reality. It's beautiful to read it both ways. It's really it's right there in Shema every day. It's a chazara. B'chol levavacha is the avoider of being Jewish. Yeah, that means the day in, day out grind of being Jewish, the identification with Torah, mitzvahs, and most importantly, Am Yisrael. And if you want to throw God in there as well, you can do that as well. But then b'chol nafshecha is the madrega that you get to when you've become so identified with your Yiddishkeit that if someone's to put a gun to your head and say your Yiddishkeit or your life, you would be thinking, well, of course, I'll give up my life. What would my life be like without Yiddishkeit? My life is Yiddishkeit. My life is Yiddishkeit, not beyond my life, that's for sure. And then b'chol mo'idecha is just the description, the ultimate description of the Jew, that you would give up you would give up your cause, meaning that you would that the very essence of who you are is that whether you're aware of it or not, So let me just turn off. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, sorry. So let's take another run at Kaf Gimel, okay? We'll start from the beginning. Well, we went off on a big tangent there. But that is the so one said that is predicated basically saying that if you give up your life for Hashem, the final, like if you want to learn these chapters on the most push-up shut way you can, is that the final outcome of all of this is the final outcome of the whole thing is if you would die for God, then live for God. Just like you go to the guy on Wall Street, Lahavdil, and say to him, you know, you love your kids? He's like, yeah. Would you give your life up for your kids? Yeah. So why don't you spend any time with your kids? Good point. That is the most basic way of learning from Yud Ches until Kaf Hey. Okay, let's start again from Perek Kaf Gimel. Ve'im kol hanal, according to everything that we've learned about Hashem being one and all there is God. Yuvan Yuvua hated but Joseph's beer. We're going to understand well. Masha Amru Bazoya. Da'iraisa Gishbachul Echad. V'tikudim Perushay De'ramach Pikudin in De'ramach Pikudin in and Ramach Even Demalka. So we've got two statements that Hashem and the Torah are one, and the mitzvahs are his limbs, are like his body. Lefisha mitzvahs ein pnimius rotzen elyoin, v'chevtza emiti, hamlubash b'chol olamas elyon v'tachtoinim, lachayoisem. Ki kol chiyusam v'shifam talui b'maisa hamitzvah shel tachtoinim k'noida. The purpose for all of the worlds, including the physical world, is for the Maisa mitzvahs. So the actual mitzvahs of the Torah are Hashem's true desire. The mitzvahs are how he and the Shekhinah merge with each other. By the Shekhinah doing mitzvahs is how the Shekhinah and the Kodesh Baruch Hu merge with one another. And therefore, that's the purpose of creation. That's his truest desire, is that Am Yisrael, which is, so to speak, the Shekhinah, is involved in Torah mitzvahs, is doing mitzvahs. So that's called his Ratzon, that's called Shemitzvahs, a Pnimius Ratzon Elyon, V'cheftzeh Emiti, his truest desire, what he really wants, not as a means to an end, which is Malubish in all of the worlds. Yeah? So like we said, there's the actual Maisa mitzvah, the actual action of the mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog, which includes the physicality of the Lulav and Esrog. Yeah? That is the mitzvah enclosed in the things of this world. Okay? So we've got the actual mitzvah, which is
expressed in the things of this world.
Expressed, there you go, thank you. The mitzvah is expressed, perfect. The mitzvah is expressed in this world through a lulav and esrog and the time and the place and the energy and all that stuff. Yeah, that's the things of this world. That's how the mitzvah is expressed. But the mitzvah is a mitzvah before it's expressed. V'nimtza shemaisa hamitzvos v'kiyuman hu levusha pnimi lepnimi as rotzne elyoin. It comes out that the act of the mitzvah, and the kiyuman, the actual the coming together of all of these things, the inner aspect of the mitzvah, the energy that's within the mitzvah, hu levusha pnimi lepnimi as rotzne elyoin. What does Hashem really, really want? Gavra, this is an important question. What does he really want? Does he actually want the mitzvah?
I don't think so.
What does he want?
He wants to be united with his creation.
With Shekhinah. Let's just call that Shekhinah. Yeah, that's accurate. But let's just say he wants a yichud of Kudsha Baruch Hu Shechintei. So we say that he wants the mitzvahs, yeah, but he does want the mitzvahs. You can't separate the mitzvah you can't separate the mitzvah from the yichud of Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Shekhinah. Meaning, this is a very important point. Let's just make it very practical. If you don't have let's make this super practical, yeah? You should hint to your wife, start hinting at least a month before your birthday, something that you want. You should drop some good hints, something good, easy, not too expensive, whatever it is, yeah? Drop a few hints a month or so before your birthday about something you would really like.
Yeah, but if you wanted it, you already have it. Shmuel, do you want something? Like, do you really want something?
You're right. Okay. So
I'm having a hard time with that.
yeah, Beseda. No, there are certain things that you want you don't buy. Like I tell you, my wife bought me just now for our anniversary. She bought me some prescription goggles. Go, Shiri.
What, when you play basketball or soccer, what do you use them
Swimming,
for?
swimming, like prescription goggles.
Oh, oh.
I was so like, unbelievable. I love it. I'm really like, I'm mama. What's the point? Without a Rotson, there is no merging of the two. Ratzon Hashem was created so that we can merge with God. If somebody is without a Ratzon, this is why Rav Manis has gone atomic on the idea of God needing us, is that if he doesn't need our avodah, it's like a crazy it's like your crazy rich uncle, the multi-billionaire uncle. What can you do for him? He's just like an ATM machine to you. There's nothing you can do for him. That would be a terrible, that would be a, you, that, not terrible. There's no relationship there. If you can't do something for someone,
Another way to say need is want,
okay, whatever. That's
which
okay.
is less controversial.
Fine, fine, fine. But either way, but the point is that that the Rotson is where we merge. And that's why Zivug is the moshel for merging. Why? Because it's her Ratzon and it's his Ratzon. It's which is really it's the panemius of Ratzon. It's pleasure. It's she's giving me pleasure, I'm giving her pleasure. That's the panemius of Ratzon. So the moshel for merging with each other is Zivug, but not because it looks like it's actually emerging. Yeah, it's because it's actually connecting through the level of Oineg, which is really the panemius of Ratzon. So there is no connecting with someone if they don't have a Ratzon. Go on, give me an example of something that doesn't have a Ratzon. A stone. A stone doesn't have a Ratzon.
So I was going to say that. I was going to say a stone, but doesn't a stone have a ratzon to be a stone?
You could say that, but in what we're saying, like for example, a plant, I've got a plant in my office, yeah, and I have more of a relationship with my plant than I do with my table. Because I give my plant water. I'm able to connect with my plant on some level. Connection is always through Ratzon. That's how you merge. That's relationship. It's always through Ratzon, and the Panemius is through Oineg. Again, I mean, Ratzon Oineg is basically, it's the same. It's two sides to the same coin kind of thing. What's the inner, the outer? Everyone, it's the same idea for what we're talking about. Yeah.
So you
So
really can't say Ratzon and need. Need and want are really synonymous.
yeah,
They
yeah.
really are.
It's like, do you want to live or do you need to live?
If you have no needs, there's no desire.
Yeah. Yeah, what would you say? Do you want to live or need to live?
Want.
I mean, you could argue that, couldn't you? That's the normal parlance of what you say, yeah. But we could argue that you need to live. Like, I wish I didn't want to live. Why do you want to live? Because I need to live. It's technical, whatever. Anyway, but the point is, so does the Rebbeinu Shalom really want the mitzvahs, Well, you can't separate the mitzvahs from the relationship. You can't separate the Ma'aser mitzvah from the merging of one another. Just like my wife and I merged through that gift of the goggles. Yeah. That was a real merging. If I had nothing that you could buy me, if there was nothing that I wanted, bichlal, yeah, then there's no, you're not, there's no relationship to be had. You have to make yourself vulnerable, meaning for a relationship to exist, you have to have a ratzon to fulfill. There has to be. And it's
So
not,
she was fulfilling your Ratzon, and that's why you guys connected? Is that how you're saying it?
well, in this case, she fulfilled my ratzon. Hopefully, when I buy her gifts, I fulfill her ratzon. She got me something that I really wanted. And I didn't even know about it. I didn't even think about it. But when I opened up the thing, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Thanks so much. And
You didn't even want it. You didn't even want it.
I wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't like in my, wasn't in my mind. But that's the point. Is the Rebbeinu Shalom wants the yichud of a Kodesh Baruch Hu and Shechina. Yeah, let's call it Hashem and creation. That can only take place through the Taryag mitzvahs. So does Hashem want the mitzvahs? Well, yeah, that is the merging. Does he really, really want the mitzvahs? If we're going to get really micro and granular on the whole discussion, then you'd probably say no, he doesn't really want the mitzvahs. He wants
You.
the
He wants
yichud.
you. And
He wants you.
Kedushas Levi says it this week. Kedushas Levi says Hashem doesn't need anything. He actually says that. He says he needs you. He says
Through the mitzvahs.
I'll read it to you. It's most beautiful.
Not now, but send it to me. Can you take a picture of that and send it to me, please?
He needs you through the mitzvahs. That's the only way to do it.
Well, he needs you, and the only way he can get you is through the mitzvahs. Could you take a picture and send it to me?
We got to get Shmuel in here. You got to get into this. Thank you, Hashem newsletter.
Okay.
Oh.
Could someone take a picture and show me that, or send me the PDF or something like that, or whatever it is? I'd like to see that. Anyway, the point is that the mitzvah is a subtle there's a subtle derivation between Hashem and the mitzvah, meaning Hashem wants the yichud, but the mitzvah is bound up with the yichud. That is the yichud, yeah? But that's why it's called a levush panimi to the panimias ratzon. Meaning his panimias ratzon mamash is the yichud of him with Klal Yisrael. So this idea of the mitzvah now is called a levusha panimi. It's an inner garment. Is it the thing itself, what he wants? No, he wants what that act causes, which is the yichud. So let's keep going 1 minute. V'nimtza shemaisa mitzvah kiyuman, the actual conceptual doing of the mitzvah, who levush panimi the panimi zeratzon elyon. It is the inner garment of the actual desire that he has. That it should become, that he should become a lubish in the oilamus, which is his real desire, which is a merging of Kudsha Baruch Shchinte, which is the yichud of the Dira B'Tachtoinim, however you want to call it. And therefore, the mitzvahs, yeah, are called the limbs of the king. And he's going to say why? Because your limbs are absolutely, I mean, this is the perfect moshel for what we just said. Your limbs and you are one, in a sense. But are they really you? Well, not really, like, but yeah, they are. But that's why mashalim are so helpful, because you don't have to explain it. You're just like, oh, that's the mashal. That's how it is. You understand? Mashal. That's why Chazal always talk in stories. Rav Steinsaltz explained that really clearly, really in his book. What's that book? The 13 Petal Rose or something like that. He explains it really beautiful. The reason why Chazal speak in mashalim is because nearly all of these ideas are so difficult to explain, to describe. They're so paradoxical that when you just give a moshel, you said it. That's exactly it. So the relationship between me and my body, look at this, yeah? my hand, uh, there's no break between my Ratzon and my hand. You ever just went like that and caught something, like someone, like you just did a reaction and yeah, your hand just goes. That's your Ratzon is bound within your body, so that's why you can do this. Like think about how many, like we said last week, think about how many kind of calculations you'd have to make to do that. Have you seen the Tesla robot? Yeah, for like the past 2 years, they've just been doing the hands. You know what kind of thinking goes into these kinds of, to do this and to do that and to do this and to do that and all these kinds of things, twisting your hand, bending it open, making a fist. Yeah, unbelievable amounts of calculations. But you just do it. You do whatever you want. Because there's no separation between you, the Ratzon, and the goof. That's the relationship between Hashem and his mitzvahs. So is your Ratzon, what's the relationship between your Ratzon and your goof? You could write a dissertation on that. Write a 1,000-page essay on that. Go for it. Do it. It's a good thing to do. Yeah. But the actual Metzias is, this is it. You see it. Look, I can do what I want. I don't know what I'm doing. My Ratzon is doing this. So they're so bound up with each other, but still they're not one. There's my goof doing my Ratzon. My goof isn't my Ratzon. My goof is expressing my Ratzon. The Torah is a step closer. You understand? So my Ratzon is enclosed and expressed through my body, but it's not my body. My body is completely nullified to my Ratzon, just like the mitzvahs are nullified to Hashem's Ratzon. But they're just nullified. They're not the actual Ratzon, whereas the Torah itself is the actual Ratzon. Let's finish off. V'nimtza shemaisa mitzvah kiyumanhu levusha panim lepnimius Ratzon ha'elyoin. It's the inner garment to the ultimate Ratzon. And it become that causes the Ratzon to be malubish in the. So me going like this, watch this, Yitzi, this will help you, yeah? Me going like this is a moshul for when I'm shaking lulav and esrog. That's like Hashem going like this. Let's say I really want to do this. Yeah. So now this thing that I really want to do is expressed in my hand wiggling. Yeah. Now Hashem really wants, the Ma'aser Mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog on Tesvav Tishrei, whatever it is. Yeah. That's him doing like this. When you're watching the Lulav being shaken at the right time, in the right place, by the right person, you are seeing Hashem going like that. But he really wants to do that. I mean, I'm just doing that stump. He really wants to do that. That's what you're seeing. So you're seeing the world expressing like my hands are expressing my Ratzon. When I take Lulav and Esrog, that's his Ratzon. His Ratzon is being expressed through the time, space, energy, matter of the mitzvah of Arba Minim. That's why they're called Ivrin de Malka. It's getting clear? Getting clearer, yeah? Oh, Hashem. Okay, I want to just get back to where we were last time, then we'll finish. Just like the limbs of the body of the man, just like your body is completely nullified to your nefesh. Ki miyad she'oile b'ratzoino, the minute it goes up in your Ratzon shel Adam, lifshoit yadoi or ragloi, to stick out your hand. Hey nishmos l'ratzoino, take ever miyad, Bli shum tzivui ve'amir alehem. There's no like, okay, hand, I want you to go out, like go gadget arm, yeah? That's not how it goes. You want it, it's done. There's no separation, there's no break. The hand is completely responsive to your ratzon. Yeah, there's no command. Yeah. So too, bli shum tzivui ve'amir alehem, bli shum shia klal. There's no delay. Ela karega mamash k'sha'al b'ratzono. The minute it goes up in your ratzon, it's already happening. Meaning, just be misboining on it. Yeah, we're just trying to explain it so deeply, but trying to explain it so clearly. Just be misboining on it. What is your relationship between your ratzon and your arm moving? Sit there and wiggle your finger and look at it and thinking that is my ratzon. Like it's so merged with my body. It's so utterly merged with my body that there's no delay whatsoever. I want my fingers to move. They're moving. Look at that. It's amazing. That's the relationship between my nefesh and my goof. That's the relationship between the Rebbeinu Shalom and his mitzvahs. Okay. That was good. I think we did good. I felt some like clunks there, like ah. Okay, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. Amelis B'Torah. Chazak v'yamatz. Okay, Chevre, everyone should be good bench. Svart Hashem. Oh, Yitzi, you want to schmooze?
Yeah, if I can.